I'm sorry, but if you can't come up with a few $1,000s to invest in your dream, then quit your dream now. Because if you're not spending that money and time with us, then what are you spending it on? And I go, if you're not doing it, like, you're not going to make it.
I want to say something to a very specific type of person who is listening to this episode today. You know you're capable. You know that there's a calling on your life. You know you have the experience and the expertise to make a real difference in lives of people that need to hear from you in only the way that you can share. But somewhere along the lines, you've begun to drift. You've begun to not believe in yourself. You've begun to give up on your dream. You've begun to stop doing things that you used to do. And really what's happening is you've begun to give up on yourself and the dream and the calling that you have on your life. And I don't believe that it's an accident that you're listening to this episode today. This episode is built for you, the person who has begun to drift, to fall away from the calling on your life. And hopefully today is a call back to that calling so that you can get back on with your dream. So Rory, this is a unique episode of really a wake-up call to the person who is giving up on the calling, on their audience, on themselves, up on their dream. And so I'd love to just start with you as like, what do you think that person needs to hear today to be reinvigorated, to get back to the work that they used to find with vigor and passion and excitement that now just feels pointless and exhausting?
Yes. I mean, if you had a dream and you're feeling discouraged, the first thing that I want you to know is that you're normal. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. I think there's a mental part of this of like, oh, we need a motivational kick in the pants. And then there is a psychological part of understanding how the human brain works. And I hope we talk about both of those things today. And I want to start with the psychological part in terms of why you're normal. The human brain is not designed for success. The human brain is designed for survival. And there's a big difference between success and survival. To survive means to stay safe. To survive means to conserve energy. To survive and stay alive means to do what is not risky, to do things that are predictable. Everything about survival is about safety. What does it mean to be successful? Almost exactly the opposite. Success is about doing things that make you uncomfortable. Success is about doing new things. Success is about taking chances. Success is about doing things you've never done before. And so if you're feeling discouraged, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that God doesn't have it, in your destiny to be successful. It doesn't mean that your calling isn't important. It doesn't mean that you're not qualified. It means that you have a perfectly functioning, healthy, normal human brain, but that normal human brain is pulling you to safety and security and comfort and predictable. And you're just experiencing the tension between the way that your brain is designed, first and foremost, to keep you alive, and you becoming the person you need to be, which is somebody that is comfortable being uncomfortable, somebody who is willing to do things that other people don't do, someone who is willing to do things that you don't like doing or don't feel like doing just because they're new things. So you're in the middle of an important journey. You're not backwards. You're not behind. You're right where you're supposed to be, but you are at a point where you got to decide, are you going to turn back to the way you've always done things, or are you going to follow the calling and keep going forward? And I think today's episode is about helping make sure you keep going forward.
All right. So I have a personal question for you.
Ooh, personal question.
Yeah. And I don't think I know the answer to this.
Ooh.
So
it's like date night. On date night, we try to ask questions to each other that we don't know the answer to.
Is there something that you have given up on in your life that you truly quit, that you look back now and you really regret?
Wow. Yeah, that's a deep one, babe. That's Say again?
Is there something in your life that you truly gave up on, that you quit, that looking back now, you really regret that you didn't see it through?
No.
Wow.
There's not, and I know that's not the, like, empathetic answer and, like, but it's
Well, we
there
want it to
is
be
not. Now,
true.
there's some, like, crazy dreams that I have, like, I've always had a dream of, like, a TV show for speakers, like,
No, but I mean something that you actually
but
were
yeah, like
doing.
something real. I mean, the closest thing would be not winning the world championship of public speaking.
Mm.
That was something I really, really wanted. And I came in second in the world. And it's like, I could have gone back and do it, but I realized it really wasn't about the title. It was about the person I became in the process. So
Do you regret going back a third time? Like, do you wish that, like, hindsight 2020, it's like, "No, I wish I would have gone back and tried for first?"
I don't.
Mm,
I don't. And I think that's actually an important part of the conversation of this is to go, my life, early on, I was like trying to achieve destinations. And it was really about like, I want to conquer this thing. And I think as I've studied success more and tried to adapt it in my own life, I've really embraced the idea that it's like, it's actually not about the destination. It's about who I'm becoming in the process. Um, as the famous philosopher Miley Cyrus once said, it's all about the climb.
mhm,
And so I think that's relevant. It's not that I haven't failed. I mean, that would be an example. I guess you technically could say I failed to reach that goal. But what didn't fail was my ultimate destination was I wanted to become one of the best speakers in the world. It wasn't the world championship that was the
mhm,
finish line. It was inspiring people and changing them and setting that up. And in many ways, we've been able to do that. And there's still another level to that I'm still pursuing, but there's not a finish line to that.
mm,
And so I think a part of what you have to do is you have to learn to fall in love with the daily grind. You have to fall in love with the idea that I'm gonna experience losses along the way or what people would call losses. I didn't get that. I wanted to have a number 1 New York Times bestseller. We've hit the New York Times twice now, neither time number 1, right? I would have loved to do that, but it's like, it wasn't really about that's not what writing a book is about. It's not about the number 1 New York Times bestseller. It's about writing a book that changes the world, forwards our business, codifies what we believe in, and those things are all available and more meaningful. And so I think sometimes people get discouraged because like they didn't get the result. We did a big launch recently and it was like I would have loved to have a better result. But we had effective progress. And so I think that is a psychological switch that people need to flip in their brain to go, yes, I'm moving towards results, but what I'm really interested is strengthening my character, creating better processes, enforcing consistency, knowing that even though I didn't get on paper the win that I
mm,
wanted in the way I got the win, the long term is the game that I'm playing and I'm on track for that as long as I don't quit. So I haven't ever quit something that like I was in the middle of just because it was hard or just because it wasn't going the way I wanted. I can't honestly say that I have. I've gotten close to quitting.
mm. What number did Take the Stairs?
Number 2, New York Times.
Do you
No,
think that's a coincidence?
I've thought about this a lot. So I got number 2 world champion of public speaking, number 2 for Take the Stairs. There was a college, uh, in college there was an award called the Student Excellence Award that I wanted one time. I was the runner up for that. I did end up winning that 2 years later, but it's possible that there's a coincidence to it because I think part of how I view this is anytime I don't get what I want,
Mhm,
I view that as both a question of my own motives
mhm,
of like, did I really want to help people or did I really want something for me?
mhm,
And the other thing I use it as a question of is a question of faith of do I trust God because God sent me in a direction, but it didn't actually come true. like in the way I thought it was going to come true,
And the way you want it.
in the way I wanted it to come true. Um, and so I think that's a test of faith, is to go, will you continue going forward? Will you continue to trust me, even though what you're experiencing right now in this moment is not the way you would have drawn it up? To me,
Mhm.
that's the very essence of faith.
Yeah, and I share that because I've often thought about that, too, of, the way we want success often looks different than the way that God sees success. And for the person who's, on the verge of giving up or quitting, how much of that really does come down to is I just didn't think it would look like this.
Yeah.
I thought it would be different than this. I thought it would be easier than this, or I thought this would have happened. And because our own expectations, which were founded in nothing really other than in what we wanted,
Yeah.
aren't met in the exact way that we wanted.
And that's, I mean, look, the difference between gratitude and frustration can be explained simply with frustrations, right? Is if my expectation level is here and what I'm experiencing is above that, I experience gratitude. If
Mm.
my expectation level is here and what I'm experiencing is below that, I experience frustration. The only difference
It's what's the
is
line of
where is the
expectation? Yeah.
expectation, right? And so I think when people place
Mhm.
expectations on God, on themselves, on other people,
Business,
on
success, marriage,
business,
relationship.
where you think you're supposed to be at this age, where you think you're supposed to be, at this many years in the business, you're setting an expectation level, again, basically based on nothing, or typically on comparison, which is even worse. And that's where your emotions are coming from, is this baseless set of expectations. Now, I try to hold myself to high standards, but I have low expectations, where it's like I'm sort of pleasantly surprised with whatever result we do get, even if it's beneath. And that's a concept. Everything we're talking about here, by the way, is inside of the Take the Stairs book, right? This is
Mhm.
like what I built my career on, because that's what I built my life on. And there's a section in Take the Stairs, which is my first book, for those of you that don't know, where I talk about successful people put their self-esteem in their work habits, not in their results. And it's one of the most defining characteristics, because even if you're a top performer, if you experience low self-esteem because you didn't get the result you wanted, then you're going to quit at some point.
Right.
But if you're a low performer who just goes, no, I'm just focusing on my work ethic, I'm controlling what I can control, I'm getting better, then over the long haul, it's going to work out. And I don't mean to over spiritualize it, but this. My life verse is Hebrews 12:11, which says that of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And I've put my faith in that verse my whole life to say, what feeling good right now is not an essential criteria or measurement or determinant of my success.
Mhm.
It's actually completely irrelevant to my success, because God's word tells me, common sense tells you, ultra performers will corroborate, as will data, that in the long term, if you do the fundamentals, that ultimately you will reap a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And I look back on my life and go, man, lots of seasons have been hard, but I look at where I am and I go, well, I don't know how else to describe what I'm experiencing other than a harvest of righteousness and peace.
Yeah, yeah, I think I love that take on it, and I love that you're able to look back and go, "Heck, there was nothing really that I gave up on, and there was nothing that I, like, didn't follow through." For the person, unfortunately, I can't say that. I was, like, making a mental list. I'm like, "Oh, I have, like, a page full of
I'm
things."
curious. I mean, I'm curious. Yeah, now I'm curious about what
I'm like, "Well, I don't know.
yours
Where do
are.
you wanna start?" But it's like as I was reflecting and thinking of, like, why did I not see dance through? Because I was in a company,
Yeah.
right? I was a dancer for 13 years, and I realized, like, I was thinking, it's like, I just didn't want it as bad as the other girls did.
Hmm.
I was more concerned with, am I gonna be available for social hour? And I think a lot of that had to do with insecurities of really wanting to be liked and really wanted to be in the in group. Um, and what I regret is that I let down my company. I regret that I didn't practice as hard as they did,
Hmm.
and that I was not as prepared as they were. I mean, some of them went on to Juilliard and the Atlanta School of Ballet. Like, they were very good because they practiced really hard. I didn't have that level of commitment as a young teenager. I just didn't. I have like a long list of things that I'm like, oh, I wish I probably would have saw that through and that one through. I was a different person then. And that's not who I am today. But I think where my question is for the person who's going like, yeah, maybe I just don't want it as bad as I used to.
That I think is a fair question because
Yeah.
you asked me and I say like, I would describe myself as someone that I have always had an extremely high level of commitment and focus to a very few small number of things,
Mhm.
right? And so the paradox principle of sacrifice from Take the Stairs says, okay, how do people pull themselves through the muck? How do you endure the pain?
Let's talk about that.
Okay, so when you ask that question, what must I do in order to endure the suck of achieving the goal? And
Mhm.
it's simple. You leverage long-term vision to endure short-term sacrifices. That's it. So if someone is struggling with discipline, a lot of times people will say, Rory, I'm struggling with a lack of discipline. But in reality, it's not that they're struggling with a lack of discipline as much as they're struggling with a lack of vision.
Mhm.
In other words, discipline becomes dormant in the absence of a dream. If I have a clear vision and it's the vision I really want, and I spend time thinking about it, and I allow myself the permission to dream about it coming true, then it creates a naturally strong connection. Think of it like a safety line, right? Like that is pulling me through all of the muck it takes to get there. Inversely or conversely, if I don't have a clear vision of what I want, or it's fuzzy, or I have a vision but I don't really want it that bad, or I have a vision and I don't think about it that often, or I have a vision but I don't allow myself the permission to have it because I think it's really unrealistic, because it is unrealistic for all of us at first. But if you don't have that, then you don't have a strong more
Mm.
line to pull you through the muck, and so you don't. Because in this instance, there's a context for the sacrifice to take place. There's something that I want. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. In this one, there's not anything I really want, which means my brain is going to default to whatever is most convenient, most comfortable in the short term. And so we don't. And so I think that's part of what, and this is a place where I do struggle a little bit relating with some people. And I think, for the most part, people are like, oh, Rory's a nice guy. But like when I coach my private clients, and even if I'm coaching like a young speaker, right? Like when I look at the cost of our Brand Builders Group program, I was having this conversation recently with someone on our sales team. I go, if we are giving people what I believe is more valuable than a 4-year, 6-year degree in this whole space for less than the price that you would pay to take one class for one semester in college. I believe our program
Mhm.
legitimately is as valuable as a 4-year degree if you want to be a speaker, author, coach, consultant, or if you're an expert of any kind. And we give you the entire freaking program for less than one college class, plus the live experiences, plus the AI bots to execute it. And I go, I'm sorry, but if you can't come up with a few $1,000s to invest in your dream, then quit your dream now.
Mhm.
Because if you're not spending that money and time with us, then what are you spending it on? And I go, if you're not doing it, like, you're not going to make it. Like,
Well, that comes back to the difference of, do you say you want it or do you really want it? It's
exactly.
like, do you want it bad enough? Do you really want it?
Do you want it enough to endure what it takes to get it? That's the real question, right? It's like, yeah, everybody would love to have a New York Times bestseller. Okay, here's a funnier example of me in the opposite, right? It's like, so I've been using AI to write songs, as you know, right? And it's like, I'd love to be I'd love to be a music star. Like, I would love my songs to be all over the radio. Like, I think they're really good, and I would love to have famous people sing the songs and get millions of dollars in royalty checks. But I don't love it enough to endure what I would have to do to get it,
Mhm.
what I'd have to give up to get it, to hustle and to build the relationships with a whole new industry of people and, like, cannibalize the time of the vision that we're pursuing now and everything. It's like, yeah, it's like it's a dream. It's not actually a goal. It's not something that I'd be willing to commit to. And so because of that, it's a hobby, right? And I go, yeah, I'll throw a little time at it just for fun. But like, that's the question: is do you want it? Do you want it bad enough? And I will say, for many people watching, you don't actually want it bad enough. And you're going to get destroyed by people who do want it bad enough. And I actually think it's an honorable decision to say, yeah, you know what? I actually don't really want this. I thought I did, but I don't really want it. I think that's an honorable decision. I think you should go all in on something you genuinely care about, because you can't compete. You can't kind of compete and play against professionals. In the world of personal branding these days, you better bring your freaking A game, because you're competing with Cody Sanchez and Alex Hormozy and Lewis Howes and Amy Porterfield and Jenna Kutcher and Ed Milet and John Maxwell. And it's like, maybe you're not playing on that level, but you're playing against people who care about their calling. And
Mhm.
I go, if you can't invest a little money and a little time to do this, you might as well just give up now. That's, the unfriendly Rory, but that's how I honestly feel.
Well, it's interesting because I hear a lot of people talk about, you can tell Rory is heated about this topic.
Yeah, you've hit a hot
I
button.
have struck a chord. I have struck a chord. But people a lot of times they say, well, I'm so passionate about this. And I think people use that word loosely. And we talked about this here recently of like the actual definition of passion is being willing to suffer for something. And it's like when you say I'm passionate about something, you're going, no, I am willing to suffer. I am willing to endure. I am willing to do the hard stuff. I am willing to be inconvenienced. I am willing to suffer. Right. I want to just like highlight that word for the thing that I love,
This
for the
is why
thing,
they call it the
the passion
passion
of
of the
Christ.
Christ.
I knew you were going to say this.
Yeah, I mean, but it's
Um,
so, again,
but
it's
I
all
think it's,
spiritual truths.
but I think it's the difference between passion versus interests, passion versus hobbies. There's a difference there.
Yeah, and I'm
And it's like, are you interested in this, i.e., you
my
and this
my music,
music,
my new
or are you
songwriting career.
passionate about this? And if you're passionate about it, that means you can't not do it. That means you're willing to suffer for it. So I wanted to just reconcile some of the conversation to the person that we've, kind of started with, like that you've begun to give up, that you've begun to recoil, that you've begun to stop doing the things. And it's like maybe the first thing that you can do after listening to this episode is go, oh, is this an interest or a passion? And perhaps there's a line of difference that you need to recognize in this thing that you're doing. It's like, no, this is something I'm interested in versus this is something I'm passionate in. Because if it's just an interest, it's a hobby. And those can come and go, right? You spend more, you spend less. But that's different than a passion and a calling.
And I think another difference between an interest and a passion is an interest is something that works out if it's convenient for it to work out.
Mm.
Like, if I have some extra time, I'll deke around with songwriting. If I post it and it takes off and goes viral and okay, great, it works out. That's different than a passion that goes, I'm going to do whatever it takes, right? Like, being a speaker, becoming one of the best speakers in the world wasn't something that I lightly did or accidentally did or stumbled my way into. It was a commitment and a focus and an endurance, and it still is, right? I still feel like I'm early in my speaking career of like really where I want to be. And so, and by the way, I don't think it's dishonorable at all to identify something as an interest. I
Totally.
think what you're saying is really important, is just be honest with yourself.
And I think perhaps if you're feeling a dwindling in something, I guess what I would maybe ask you to reflect on is, was it really just an interest? Was it really just something you'd like to do? Was it a hobby versus a calling and a passion? As you are talking, I was thinking I have a good friend, his name is Dennis. And what started as something that was just a hobby and interest was pickleball. And it was something that he did for fun. Then he kind of was like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Oh, now it's a social thing. He did it with his wife and he was doing it with friends. Now it's a full blown passion. And it's like, here's how I know it. It's all he wants to talk about. He's like, hey, you want to get together and play pickleball? It used to be, hey, do you want to get together and talk about business? It's like,
Mm,
and everything is situated around his pickleball schedule and his now tournaments, what he's reading, what he's watching. And it's like, I've watched this shift from, oh, it's something I casually do to it's something I'm passionate about doing. He gets up at 5 a.m. to do it before work. He's now watching game film. He's hired a coach. He's now weight training so that he can have a better swing.
nice.
He's now reading books, and he just got the lottery ticket for the U.S. Open for pickleball. It has evolved into something, and I think the reason I called on that as you were talking is like I've watched a hobby turn into a passion,
Mm.
and there's a difference. It's, hey, this is something I do when I have time and it's convenient versus, no, I'm willing to be inconvenienced. I will spend my money, time, and energy to learn about it, to do it, to talk about it, to practice it. And maybe that's just some self-reflection that you can ask yourself. It's, do I read about this in my spare time? Do I talk about it when no one else is bringing it up? Is this what I spend time thinking about or dreaming about or journaling about? Is this what I'm asking questions? Is this the content I'm following? And if the answer is no to all of those, then maybe it's just an interest. And that's okay. But then maybe you shouldn't be beating yourself up so much
Don't beat
of,
yourself up. Let it be a
this is
hobby.
just a seasonal interest or something that has come and gone versus knowing the difference between a passion, which is something you're willing to suffer for, a true calling on your life.
And here's a litmus test, another litmus test to know if something is a calling and a passion or just like a hobby and an interest. If your commitment is conditional, that means it's a hobby and
Oh,
an
that's good.
interest.
That's good.
If your commitment is unconditional, that means it's a passion and a calling. To me, the metaphor I've been thinking about a lot and coaching myself with is a wedge. I love a wedge.
Mm-hmm.
A wedge forces itself into something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you prioritize a passion, you prioritize a calling. You don't wait for the time to be available, you make it available. It wedges its way into your life, into your conversation, you don't go, if I have time, I'll do that. It's like, no, I'm going to do that, and then everything else will be, if I have time,
Okay.
I'll do those things.
That's good. All right. Well, this is a good transition into our community question,
Community question.
which you get to read
I get to
today.
read to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, community question, one of our favorite segments. Okay. So, these are from our members that are in our Brand Builders Group membership program. They vote on the most pressing question, and then they vote up which questions they think are most applicable to them. And the one with the most upvotes is the community question. So, this week it's from Sarah. Rory and AJ. I've been a Brand Builders Group client for almost 2 years. Thank you, Sarah. I've done the workshops. I know my brand. I know my message. I genuinely believe in the work I do, but I cannot stay consistent. I'll be on a roll for 2 or 3 weeks, posting, showing up, making progress, and then something happens. A busy season, a hard week, a vacation, and I fall completely off. You're not alone. And then the shame of falling off makes it even harder to get back up. This cycle's been going on for 2 years. I'm exhausted by it. How do I break it for good? Wow. What a powerful, honest question.
Yeah.
Yeah. AJ, why don't you just solve this one for us?
Oh, here's what I would say is you got to ask yourself, is there something in the cyclical nature of what you're doing that isn't sustainable? And is that why you keep falling off?
Oh, that's good. Tactical.
And so I think that there's a lot of things, like if I just take the more tactical approach versus the mindset and the emotional approach,
Because
which
I'm
I'll let you
going to take the
I
mindset and
figured
emotional one
I
on this.
figured you would. Is it's really more of like, hey, are you biting off more than you can chew? And that's why there's an ebb and a flow. Is it not sustainable in a hard week or on a vacation week? And you got to ask yourself, it's like, okay, well, what would need to change to make this sustainable regardless of the week? Regardless if I'm on vacation, if it's a hard week, if I get busy, if someone gets sick, there's got to be something that's sustainable no matter what. And I guess another tactical thing is like I would give yourself 3 versions of what consistent looks like for you. I have my routine consistent, I have a low consistent week and a high consistent week. So here's what I mean by that is on a normal routine week, this is what I do. On a low week, in other words, I would say something unexpected happens. A child is homeschool from school sick. There was a family emergency. It's a vacation. I
We
got
have
sick.
ice apocalypse
We have ice
in Nashville.
apocalypse, right? In other words, what your low consistency week is, this is my bare minimum, right? So you're just setting 3 levels of consistency for yourself. This is a routine norm that I'm going to do on a normal week. Then give yourself the permission in a off week, then you have my bare minimum expectations, and give yourself some grace and some peace of going, I'm going to stay consistent, but consistent looks different for me in those weeks. And then also counter that with a high consistency week, which is, hey, if you have extra time, I don't know where that comes from, but if you do, if you have extra time in a week, it's like, hey, on those weeks, I'm going to do this. And now you have ranges. And I think a part of having ranges is what eliminates the guilt and the shame, to give yourself the grace and the compassion of going like, hey, there's going to be unexpected stuff that happens. Kids are going to get sick. Family members are going to fall sick. You're going to get sick. There's going to be vacation days. Kids are going to be out of school. There's going to be things that happen. So give yourself like, hey, bare minimum expectations are going to happen on my unexpected weeks. My norm is this. And when I have that extra time, if it ever comes, then this is what it's going to look like for me. And that'll give you permission to ebb and flow through all those without feeling guilt and shame while still staying consistent.
That's good. That's good. For you, Sarah, that asked this question, and anyone who is struggling with consistency, where you're on and then you're off and you're on and you're off, you say, this cycle has been going on for 2 years and I'm exhausted by it. How do I break it for good? Part of what I would say, Sarah, is I think you need to reframe this. You're saying I'm exhausted by it. When I read this, I'm energized by it. You're talking about how you keep coming back. You're talking about how you've been in for 2 years. You're talking about how you're fighting. You're talking about how you have overcome shame and gotten back on the horse. I'm not exhausted by this. I'm energized by this. This isn't necessarily something that you have to break for good. This is just, you're building the muscle that it takes. Like, you have to rethink how you're thinking about it. And I think that the devil plants these seeds of doubt, like, oh, this isn't working. You're inconsistent. No, that's what he's saying, because you're almost there. You're on track. Like, you are doing the thing. So just, you have to celebrate what you are doing and not be so focused about what you're not doing. Look, this whole episode has been about helping you understand that you may not get the wins and you might have to slow down. You might have to slow to a crawl. Just don't stop. Just don't quit. Progress over perfection. Like, the victory is not in whatever expectation you've got in your mind of what consistency looks like. The victory is that you have been facing rejection and difficulty and you keep going. That means you're winning. That doesn't mean you're losing. That means you're winning. Keep going. Keep going. Slow down if you must, but don't you quit, Sarah.
Yeah. And I would add to that. It's like, this is a good reminder of how muscle is built. Muscle has to be broken down before it can be built up, right? And that is literally what you're saying here. It's like, in order to get stronger, there has to be things that are broken down. And every single time you get back on and you do it again, it's going to get a little bit easier and you're going to get a little stronger. This is a reframe. This is not exhaustion. This is growth. This is being energized. And I love that reframe. Y'all, everyone who's listening, I would just encourage you, like, if this message resonates with you, would you just save it and come back to it on those days when you feel defeated and go, no, I need to go back and listen to this motivational pep talk from Rory Vaden of why I got to keep going and I can't give up. Or maybe you're listening to this and you're going, this episode was built for this person I know. I have to share it with them. They're on the verge of giving up on something. I need to share it with them. Would you just do us a favor, do them a favor, and share this episode with someone that you know that this could help give them just enough spark to keep going? And while you're at it, if you wouldn't do us, or if you wouldn't mind doing us a favor and subscribe to this so that you can get those constant reminders and tips to keep going, the strategies that you need, but also the heartfelt personal experience and motivation that what you do matters. And so subscribe this, share this with a friend, and come back next time to hear me and Rory talk it out on the Wealthy and Well-Known podcast. Keep
going.
Keep
Going.
Keep
Going.
Keep
Going.
and subscribe.